meeting to order tonight. I just wanted to take a few minutes to run through what's on our agenda and to check in. Kim, are you ready to roll back there? Thank you. Thank you, Kim from BevCam. Thanks to BevCam for making sure that, as always, our meetings are accessible to the public and that people can follow along streaming and also on cable. We are going to get right into our agenda in a moment, but I did want to just say that we have several items here that we're going to go through. The first is we'll be starting off with a presentation from Mayor Cahill. We have the State of the City. And then we have another presentation from Kristen Meyer, who's here to talk to us about the good work they do at Pathways. We have 3 public hearings, one at 8, one at 8:15, one at 8:25, and then we do have some routine business to take care of, so we'll break briefly for committee work, and then we'll be back to take care of the business that we take care of there. So with that, I will officially call to order this regular meeting of the Beverly City Council, Monday, March 20th, 2023. 7 o'clock p.m. Ms. Kent, will you please call the roll?
Bowen, Crowley.
Here.
Feldman. Here. Hausman.
Here.
Rand. Here. Rotundo.
Here.
St. Hilaire.
Here.
Sweeney.
Here.
And Flowers.
I'm here. Thank you. Councilor Hausman, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Councilor Hausman. Before we get right into our agenda, I also do want to say a word of welcome to some of the scouts who are here with us tonight. These are Beverly Scouts from Pack 4. I think I finally got, yep, they've been helping me get that right. They came here tonight so that they could learn more about civic government and engagement in preparation for crossing over to become part of the troop. And so they've had a chance to see some of City Hall and to ask some questions, and we're happy to have you here with us tonight. Thank you all for being here, and thanks for being such an engaged and wonderful group and part of our Beverly community. We're lucky to have you all. Thank you. I do see many members of the administration here. Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you want to just collectively introduce your department heads when you get up. I know normally I go around, but I don't want to take... Oh, perfect. Great. So we'll start with City Solicitor Stephanie Williams is here. Thank you very much, Solicitor. The Mayor's Constituent Services Director, Ronnie Jacobson. Thank you, Ms. Jacobson, for being here. Beverly Fire Department Chief Peter O'Connor. Thank you for being here, Chief. Our new Harbor Master, remind me, Paul? Peter, I was going to go with Peter Dickman. Thank you for being here. We just met today in the parking lot, and it was a pleasure to meet you. And in the future, I'm going to go with my gut on your name. Allison Bavin, our Library Director, is here. Thank you, Ms. Bavin. Catherine Barrett, our City Grants Director. Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Mayor's Chief of Staff, Jocelyn Ruel-Kursker, is here with us. Thanks for being here. Our Chief of the Beverly Police Department, John Lasher, is also here. Thank you very much, Chief. Pauline Texera is here from Human Resources. Thank you so much. The Mayor's Administrative Assistant, Martha Lewis. Thank you, Ms. Lewis, for being here. City Purchasing Agent Dave Gelano is here. Thank you very much, Mr. Gelano. How am I doing?
Good. Take it over here.
Oh, and Mr. Ailes. So our City Finance Director, Brian Ailes, who had the chance to have some conversation with the Scouts with me. Thank you very much, Mr. Ailes. And Department of Public Services Commissioner Mike Collins is here with us as well. Thank you very much, Mr. Collins, for being here. Our City Council Budget Analyst, Mr. Perry, is also here with us this evening, and I also want to recognize that our State Senator, Joan Lovely, is here with us. Thank you very much, Senator, for being here. What? Carol? Oh, Carol's here too. Oh, I'm so sorry, Carol. Thank you very much. And Carol is also here from our Retirement Board and... What? Auditing. Thank you. Sorry, Carol. Mr. Mayor. We'll go right to you for the State of the City. And councilors, this is our chance to hear the State of the City. We won't have a lot of conversation back and forth following this time, but of course this will be a jumping off point for further conversation as we go forward together and look towards the budget season. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks so much, Madam President. It's good to see everybody. You'll appreciate that I tried to print this big enough to not need my glasses, and I thought I was going to need a tree when I looked at how many pages it would require. So, may pull them out. Also, if at that point where I need to take a sip of water, help me out by talking amongst yourselves. So it's great to see everybody. I want to thank all the team here, all of our city team who have been able to make a little time this evening to join us, and their colleagues who would have been here but weren't able to be. I want to thank my brothers Sean and Ed, my sister-in-law Liz for being here, and I know I have a couple brothers watching at home, so it's always great to have the family support. Senator, great to see you as always. So let me jump right in. Good evening, and thank you, City Council President Flowers and City Council members. To members of the public here in attendance or watching at home on BevCam, to our local media who provide people with information critical to making local government work successfully, thank you for your interest and for your participation in helping to shape our wonderful city. To city department heads and other valued administration team members in attendance, thank you for your presence and for all your good work and your staff's good work day in and day out on behalf of the people of Beverly. To our Beverly Public School leadership, school committee members, and our dedicated school staff, thank you for all you do to educate our children and strengthen our community. As we take a few minutes tonight to reflect on the state of our city that we love, I want to begin by celebrating the people of Beverly. From the hundreds of residents who volunteer on city boards and committees, to every resident and local business owner who spends time in good faith trying to make children's, seniors, and neighbors' lives better in ways small and large, and thank you to our Scout leaders embodying it in the room tonight, and to everyone who takes the time to engage in our many public and political processes, to you, my colleagues on the City Council, and our colleagues on school committee and at every other level of government. Everything we're able to accomplish in Beverly is due to and thanks to everyone's contributions to the broader discussion. So thanks to everyone, we have lots to celebrate together and lots to do together in the coming year. Together as a community, we have built a world-class LEED Silver middle school, a world-class near net zero police station, and nearly 9.5 megawatts of renewable solar arrays with more to come. We are currently designing the City Hall renovation and the new McPherson Youth Center projects with construction targeted for 2024. By this fall, we will have 5 full-size electric school buses in service, with all our current school vans having already been hybridized to cut their greenhouse gas emissions. And we've recently purchased the former Rowan's property and will create parking and more boat access to support our waterfront. Together as a community, we have built reserves needed to carry us through the next recession, and we have improved our bond rating to AA+. If the City Council approves our current request to transfer 10% of this year's certified free cash into our city stabilization fund, we will have $18.2 million in this fund, representing 12.1% of our approved fiscal year 2023 general fund budget. This is consistent with the financial reserves policy that our City Council and my administration jointly adopted in 2018. At the same time, our June 30th, 2022 free cash or cash reserves certification was $9.9 million, which represents 6.6% of our fiscal year 2023 general fund budget. Best financial practices advise municipalities to carry reserves to guard against revenue shortfalls and possible recessions. As a result of our own financial structure and potential exposure, our policy targets a combined reserve balance equal to 13 to 23% of our general fund budget. Together, our stabilization fund and certified free cash total 18.7% of our general fund budget. We are in a good position. However, please note 2 key considerations. First, we collectively look to our cash reserves each year to help pay for needed purchases like our new fire department ladder truck and our new pumper truck, and to defray the cost of projects like the new police station and our new geothermal HVAC system at the main branch library. With the help and counsel of Finance Director Bryant Ailes and his team, in addition to outside financial advisors and bond counsel, as well as your own City Council budget analyst, Jerry Perry, we together collectively balance our demands for critical city investments with the ability to replenish our cash reserves to healthy levels each year. Second, this year the city is spending an average of $2 million per week on our schools and city employees' payroll and health care costs, While we are further mandated by federal and state government to spend $1.05 million per month to fund our pension system, and we also spend $638,000 per month to pay debt costs for our capital projects such as our schools, police station, and numerous other projects. We need to continue this focus on strong reserves to see us through the next recession, as the very point of reserves is to ensure we are able to continue to educate our children, keep our residents safe, and provide enriching and meaningful services for all our residents whenever the next real economic downturn hits, and that we are able to continue to deliver those critically important services at an outstanding world-class level right on throughout any hard times. Together as a community, we are fighting the climate crisis by working daily to cut our greenhouse gas emissions. To do this, we need to stop burning oil and gas by electrifying our buildings and our vehicle fleets. And we need to help generate the clean, renewable energy sources like solar, wind, and geothermal that will deliver the electricity we all need. We owe our children and grandchildren an Earth that continues to support their lives in the way that it has ours. The threat of sea level rise, increasing extreme weather events, a permanent rise in global temperatures, and the upheaval this will all bring demand that we all act now and with the level of urgency that has long been needed. This is why in Beverly, we have together built solar arrays on the old Otis Road landfill along Route 128 North, at Beverly High School and Middle School, at 2 of our downtown parking lots, and on the roofs of City Hall and the Senior Center, which will together produce nearly 9.5 megawatts of clean, renewable energy, clean, renewable electricity for decades to come. It is why we installed a geothermal heating and cooling system at our new police station, and will now build solar on the roof and over the parking lot. It is why we will install a new geothermal system at our Beverly Public Library's main branch, along with making energy efficiency improvements throughout the building over the next year. It is why we prioritize energy efficiency in all our buildings, and why we are planning for our new McPherson Youth Center and our renovated City Hall to be net zero non-greenhouse gas producing buildings. We also have been building electric vehicle charging stations to support our community and our own municipal vehicle fleet needs. At present, there are 23 public EV charging ports in operation on city property throughout Beverly. In addition to our aforementioned work to electrify our school fleet, we now have 3 EVs in our inspectional services fleet, 3 in our police fleet, and every new vehicle purchase is evaluated with a goal of purchasing EVs or secondarily hybrids for all of our fleet needs as soon as these vehicles are ready to perform as needed to reliably and safely deliver critical city services. We have secured grants and worked together with our partners next door in Salem. This past year, our Beverly Salem Energy Challenge has completed more than 1,200 home energy assessments and 400 insulation jobs in our 2 cities, with many more to come. In our efforts to fight the climate crisis, as with all our work, we greatly need and benefit from the passion, the work ethic, and expertise of our residents. Here, our Clean Energy Advisory Committee and our Waste Reduction Committee, along with our Planning Board and Design Review Board, and others, contribute greatly to the above work, to our recycling and composting efforts, and to our community's long-held embrace of smart, transit-oriented investments. Investments that have produced critically needed housing and economic vitality. Investments that have helped us keep pace with the costs of delivering the services Beverly's residents care about and need. Investments that are helping Beverly to evolve as a sustainable 21st century city. Here's the first water break.
We can talk amongst ourselves.
I haven't seen somebody give a public speech who doesn't feel self-conscious about making everybody wait. Will they do that? Okay. With respect to our community's character and direction, these past few years have resulted in some thoughtful, productive reflection and evaluation. Our new master plan, developed with great amounts of community engagement, reflective of broad resident participation and input, reinforced our community's commitment to protecting our remaining green spaces while targeting our still deeply needed new housing and economic investments largely to already developed parcels and focused near our train stations. Several key master plan recommendations have been advanced by our talented planning department, led skillfully by Director of Planning Darlene Wynn. First among these is the creation of design standards, one of the priority recommendations in the master plan. This effort was funded significantly with grant funds and led by our consultants, Util Architecture and Planning, utilizing the talents and ideas of a committee of residents, including Ward 1 and 2 city councilors, Rotundo and Rand, and with direct involvement of planning staff in my office. A set of recommended standards are ready for public discussion and input next month, which will be followed by a submittal to the City Council for your review and action. While this process has been ongoing, we collectively considered and took action to pass a number of zoning ordinance updates, most of which are consistent with master plan recommendations and which largely focus on the downtown. We are now hopeful that these zoning updates will help to ensure that needed housing, including housing affordable to residents across all income levels, will continue to be built, providing homes for both our current and our future neighbors, while also ensuring the scale of redevelopment will fit our community's historic character and our road infrastructure, and will promote an ever more walkable, bikeable, livable Beverly. Progress has been made over the last year on furthering the city's diversity, equity, and inclusion goals. We successfully hired a new diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging director, Wangari Fahari, and she started working for the city 3 weeks ago. We have outlined a plan to implement our racial equity audit, which was completed last summer. With our consultants, HR&A, who have been invaluable partners, and now with our new DEIB director, we are poised to kick off Phase 1 implementation of the racial equity audit's recommended action items. This document focuses on city government's own operations, and a core implementation team made up of key city staff will be chaired by the following 3 city leaders: DEIB Director Wangari Fahari, Mayor's Chief of Staff Jocelyn Rowell-Kursker, and Human Resources Director Pauline Teixeira. Soon, and hopefully prior to budget deliberations, the HR&A team will join our core implementation team and present to you, our City Council, in a special meeting devoted to progress made and progress to be made in the coming months and years. We have not been, however, in a waiting mode. This past year, with assistance from our Beverly Public Schools English Learner Education Program, the Mayor's Office and IT Department instituted a pilot iPad translation program that is being used at City Hall and the Public Library. Our goal is to make our government more accessible to all residents and to empower our staff to communicate with visitors who have little or no English language ability through providing iPads at the windows and utilizing available translation app technology. More outreach efforts to non-English speaking Beverly residents, both through our website and in the community, are planned. We continue to be involved in an exciting project focused on developing benchmarks for language access in municipalities with our regional planning agency, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. Along with the towns of Arlington, Milton, and Randolph, we in Beverly are leading the way regionally to develop a set of best practices that communities can utilize when beginning or expanding offerings of accessible services to those for whom English is not their first language. We have expanded Beverly's contribution to this effort by also bringing Caitlin Beleza, our incredibly talented Director of English Learner Education for the Beverly Public Schools, into this group. We also work daily to diversify both our workforce and our city board and committee volunteers. Relationships are being built and cultivated with more diverse undergraduate and graduate colleges and universities throughout the region and beyond, as well as with organizations representing specific professions, all in an effort to find diverse, talented applicant pools for all our job openings. The more we can consistently facilitate diverse applicant pools for our job openings, the more our workforce will become more representative of our whole community. Beverly, as a nearly 400-year-old town, now city, faces many infrastructure needs, none more challenging than our street infrastructure and the many city and private utilities that reside under these streets. In recent years, to improve traffic flow and safety for all our pedestrians, bikers, and motorists, we as a community have rebuilt intersections at Henry's Market, the Beverly Golf and Tennis Club, and at the foot of the Veterans Memorial Bridge. We've also signalized the Echo Avenue-Elliott Street intersection, improved the Tozer-Sawyer Road intersection, built the double roundabout project at Brimble Ave and Sawyer Road, and the Centerville roundabout at Route 128, the Cabot Street Downtown Complete Streets project, and we fully designed the Bridge Street project to be bid this summer by the state for construction next year. We have also replaced and improved significant sections of our clean drinking water infrastructure, our stormwater management system, and our sanitary sewer infrastructure throughout the city. This includes 2 projects in Centerville and Beverly Farms, specifically to ensure sufficient water pressure for both domestic use and to fight fires. We've invested throughout the city in these systems to ensure enough capacity and to support projected growth in the downtown and elsewhere. We are improving the infrastructure beneath Bridge Street ahead of next year's state project. With nearly 160 miles of road surface and related underground infrastructure throughout Beverly, this is an ongoing effort. Since Beverly receives $1.05 million in Chapter 90 state funding each year for paving, this means our work must also be significantly funded locally by us all, as Beverly residents, through our property taxes, excise taxes, and water and sewer payments. Over the last 5 years, we together have spent a total of $10.85 million in city funds on roads and sidewalks. Add to that $6.2 million in state Chapter 90 funds, and we have spent together, collectively, over $17 million on roads, sidewalks, and larger projects such as the Centerville Roundabout, Route 1A, Bridge Street, and the 3 intersections projects in the last 5 years. As city councilors know, we regularly discuss how to maximize the funds we can put into roads and sidewalks each year, and will continue to do so. As we build our lists for paving and identify streets for each year's program, we are guided in significant part by the Road Paving Index we commission to be updated every 2 years. This program assigns a grade from 0 to 100 to every stretch of roadway in the city. Sometimes needed infrastructure improvements under the roadway move a street up the list. We work together to prioritize based on the data. Some say data, some say data. With needed allowances for under-the-street infrastructure as noted. In addition to addressing our street list in the coming construction season and next budget year, we also are prioritizing this year the signalization and reconstruction of the Corning, Essex, and Spring Streets intersection, and we're moving forward with design of the new roundabout at Brimble Avenue and Dunham Road. Both projects necessary to improve safety and traffic flow at these challenging intersections. As a city, together we continue to prioritize and dedicate significant time and resources to 3 critical issues. And while partnering with our state and federal elected representatives and agencies is important in all we do, it is nowhere more important than in these 3 instances. The cleanup of the long-contaminated Varian property and the down-gradient plume of contaminants that has long migrated from the Varian site underneath Tozer Road and the greater Sonning, Longmeadow, Longview Road neighborhood and beyond is at a critical point. Working with our neighborhood group, Voices of Concern, you city councilors, especially Ward 3 Councilor Crowley, Senator Lovely, Representative Paracella, Congressman Moulton, and the professionals at the State Department of Environmental Protection, we will continue to dedicate ourselves to holding Varian accountable, finally, to clean up their mess from 60 and 70 years ago, that long after they dumped large amounts of dangerous chlorinated solvents in the ground, to finally close this shameful chapter and provide our residents and neighborhood schools and businesses the peace of mind they've long deserved. The sudden closure of the state-owned Hall-Whitaker Bridge by the Massachusetts Department of Transportation last June has impacted Beverly residents, especially throughout Ryleside and downtown, as well as many local businesses. As they always do, Senator Lovely, Representative Paracella, Congressman Moulton, and our U.S. Senators have been by our side throughout. You city councilors, and especially Ward 1 Councilor Rotundo, have worked closely with me and our key city staff to push for movement. At present, the United States Coast Guard, MassDOT, and we are working to ensure that the Bass Haven Yacht Club's needs are addressed, since the Coast Guard's approval of MassDOT's proposed temporary fixed-span bridge design hinges in part on this. MassDOT's contracted engineering firm, VHB, will be submitting 25% design plans for the temporary bridge by the end of this month, and this will trigger MassDOT beginning the permitting processes. The current plan is to permit and build the temporary bridge as quickly as possible. Once open, the state plans to demolish both the old Hall-Whitaker and the Kernwood bridges and to build their permanent replacement bridges at the same time. Once these are open to car traffic, they will then remove the temporary bridge. We remain in regular, frequent contact, and I know we all, as Beverly's local, state, and federal elected officials, will keep pushing as hard as we can to move this project forward. We are determined to beat timelines whenever possible and to restore these state bridges to the service of our neighbors and our community as soon as humanly possible. The Brimble Avenue New Highway Overpass and Interchange Project, also known as Phase 2, will be in further design over the next year as we move from conceptual to a further fleshed out design. In the meantime, we continue to work with state transportation and economic development officials to prepare this project for the long-sought state and federal funding support needed to build it. I do want to take just a minute to acknowledge that we were joined shortly after I started by our Sustainability Director, Irina Keefe, and as well by our new Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Director, Wangari Fahari. We've also been joined by one of our stellar volunteers from many committees, Mr. Wayne Miller. Thank you all. Oh, and I should have said, we also have one of our Assistant City Solicitors, Jesse Dole, who came in also right after we started. Together, as a community, we continue to invest in green spaces and parks. Last year, we purchased 2 vacant house lots on Simon Street with a combination of community preservation funds and city cash reserves. And we have since worked closely with neighbors to design how best to serve the neighborhood's needs with these 2 new parks. One will be transformed into a play area and the other into an informal gathering space, which can also host birthday parties, etc. Equipment and furniture is being priced, and our Department of Public Services team is preparing the spaces for the neighborhood's enjoyment for years to come. Last year, we also appropriated $1.1 million in community preservation funds to help the trustees of reservations purchase a 66-acre parcel on the Moraine Farm campus, creating a 200-plus acre conservation holding. In return, the trustees committed to opening the campus to the public, connecting their trail system to the city-owned Phillips Preserve, creating public parking on site, and dedicating nearly 2 acres as a new home for Beverly's community garden. We continue to invest money to keep our play structures, parks, and fields in good condition. This year, we will make progress on measures to build resilience into key coastal city assets, including Aubert and Lynch Parks. Funded by a state municipal vulnerability program grant, the Bass River Resiliency Study is well underway, and this phase will be completed by June 30th to determine how we can best adapt to projected sea level rise along this tidal river. Together, we as a community continue to prioritize the steps we need to take and the investments we need to make to protect our assets and resources and to enhance the outstanding level of services our city provides each year for our residents and visitors. As we together navigate a complex set of needs and priorities, the state of our city continues to be very strong. We appreciate that our many city departments are led by such talented professionals who are fully committed to the people and the community of Beverly. As we welcome our new health director, Laura Delakai, and our new council on aging director, Chris Gomez-Fairwell, and they join with library director Allison Babin, veterans agent David Parenchief, recreation department and community services director Bruce Doig, we together continue to deliver outstanding community services to our veterans, our seniors, and community members at large. We are confident that Ms. Delacaille and Mr. Gomez-Fairwell will build on the outstanding longtime service of their predecessors, Bill Burke and Mary Ann Holak, and together with their new colleagues, we are excited to see what they will accomplish in the service of our community. Throughout city government and our school department, our employees provide outstanding services every day of the year. They keep us safe, they help us address challenges in our lives, manage and utilize our public resources thoughtfully, responsibly, and with maximum positive outcomes for our community, both for today and for the long term. I am incredibly grateful for our staff, as I am grateful for everyone who volunteers, formally and informally, to make this city a better place for all our residents. We have so many partners who contribute greatly to the fabric of our Beverly community. Together, we are making wonderful things happen. The state of our city, the state of Beverly is strong and resilient. Together as a community, we are committed to Beverly today and to Beverly's future. The state of Beverly is optimistic, determined, and engaged, and committed to achieving positive results day in, day out, year in, and year out. Beverly is a truly special place to call home, one I know we all are grateful to call ours. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for joining us. Thank you for giving us that update on the state of our city and for the work that you and your team, many of whom are represented here in this room, do on a daily basis, as you said, for the residents of our city. And thank you again to all the members of the administration who are here. Thanks to those who couldn't be here tonight, some of the new members of the team that the mayor just acknowledged. I think I speak for the whole council when I say that we're looking forward to getting to know the newer members of your team, to continuing to work together with those that we know.
I just want to
Mr.
say
Mayor.
one other thing, Madam President.
You may.
Because of the format, when giving a state of the city, where I stand here and I'm looking at you folks, and the way you do, I don't want anybody watching to think that you don't know all this already. Almost everything I said, you folks have been integrally involved in making happen. So even though it feels a little funny to be kind of, the city council are so integral to everything that's done in this city, and it's been a great partnership. I'm excited for the year to come. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor. And yes, thank you absolutely to my fellow councilors. It is a great partnership, and I think that's one of the things that makes Beverly really strong and helps Beverly thrive as a community is the partnership among the leaders, including the school committee members, and also all of our residents. And so that's just a really important part. And as I was saying to the scouts before, civic engagement and our residents' engagement in the life of the city is one of the things that makes it really work and keeps us as such a thriving community. So thank you again very much. Thank you again, Senator Lovely, for being here with us. I know we do have another presentation, but I would entertain a motion, just take a 5-minute recess before we go to our next presentation.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We'll take a recess for 5 minutes and be back. Mayor Cahill and all of his department heads and staff for all the work that they do and for their time tonight and for that state of the city. We do have now another presentation, and I'd like to thank Councilor Rotundo for helping us to connect with the team from Pathways and to get this presentation scheduled. So we have Kirsten Meyer and Eric Mitchell. And Eric, I want to apologize. When I was introducing the agenda, I missed your name, and so I'm glad to have you here.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
And so this team from Pathways is here, as is our occasion in the council. We often get to hear from some of the nonprofits and other organizations doing work in our community. And so Pathways is here to give us a little bit of insight into the work that they do. So thank you very much. I'll turn the floor over to the two of you.
Awesome. Thank you for allowing us to come. I appreciate it. I hope you find this informative about Pathways. So the mission of Pathways is it nurtures children, supports families impacted by economic and social inequity through programs that educate, enrich, empower, and motivate. Our mission is the whole piece, obviously, to Pathways. Some of our values: respect, trust, collaboration, and opportunity. So Pathways is over 50 years old, older than me, if you can believe it. Primary programs are early education and family support. All of our administrative offices are in Gloucester. You probably are familiar with our center here in Beverly on Cabot Street, next to the theater. So we've had Head Start programs in Salem, Peabody, and Beverly, doubling the size of our staff in 2012. So currently at our 3 locations, Gloucester, Beverly, and Salem, we have 130 staff. These are the locations of some of the services that we offer. We not only have Head Start and Early Head Start, but we also have a school-age program. We have the big event in Gloucester, Countdown to Kindergarten. Dolly Parton's Imagination Library we're involved with, which gives free books to children 0 to 5 years old. With anyone in the whole area can get that. You don't have to have any eligibility requirements for that. The CFCE programs, and we have lots of family enrichment programs, a new teacher training program, and then the big Youth at Risk Conference, which is going to be in May, with the resource guide, which is all the resources in the area you could think of. We serve about 2,500 individuals a year. 77% of them live below the federal poverty level, meaning they make $16,000 annually for a family of 2. Also, 11% are experiencing homelessness in any given year at Pathways. So here's just some statistics that you guys probably already know, just about people receiving the SNAP benefits, the percentage of households that we have that come to the Beverly Center, and people living in shelters, and doubling up with families, also a big concern. Here are some of the other statistics about the families, the children living in poverty for Beverly. And here's the Salem stats.
And I don't think folks need to squint too hard at that. We include these slides because oftentimes people are not as aware of the need in Beverly, so we really want to make sure that not only do we don't assume that there's need in Beverly, we know that there's need in Beverly.
This is our Beverly Center. You probably all have seen it. This is the Horace Mann School, which is where our Salem Center is located. Playground. This is kind of my job here. It's the recruitment of families and children for Head Start and Early Head Start through all 3 programs. As you know, it's kind of each center has a different sort of program hours, Gloucester being the most unique in that it has full day and Early Head Start and a school age program. The one here in Beverly runs 7:30 to 1. And after school care for the summer for school age children.
And most folks in Beverly will know us as the Head Start program. If you go back over 10 years, most people just knew Head Start, Head Start, Head Start. And so since 2012, when Pathways took over the Head Start contract, we have Head Start and we operate Head Start out of that facility, but we also offer a number of other programs, which is what Kirsten is showing you here.
The nurturing program to help build parenting skills and knowledge of child development. We have a nurturing fathers program, a parent connection, parent mentor program, and lots of playgroups. So these are sort of when the programs run at Cabot and some of the other locations too. So nurturing program is probably the biggest one that we run at Cabot. It's also now offered in Spanish. We do a lot of emergency assistance, and we have a huge holiday store that provides holiday gifts for entire families, not just the kids that participate in Pathways. It's a huge event. You should see the office I work in during this time. It's covered in gifts. Oops. Sorry. Oopsie. I don't know. Sorry, guys.
You got runaway slides.
Yeah, I do. These are some early literacy and kindergarten readiness. Like I talked to you before about the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, which is good for every child in this area, all on the North Shore. Then you have the save the date for the Gloucester Countdown to Kindergarten, which also Beverly is starting to do, along with Salem, where they do a more community-based kind of program when kids are ready to go to kindergarten.
Kirsten, I want to just put in an additional plug on the Imagination Library. Dolly Parton's Imagination Library partners with community agencies to bring the book club to various communities. So Pathways is the partner for all of Essex County, and currently we partner to bring books to all of Cape Ann and to Beverly, Peabody, and Salem. And so that's any family. So if you have children or grandchildren or great-grandchildren that are younger than kindergarten age, they're all eligible at no cost. And so it really is a phenomenal resource that is brought to you by us in our partnership with Dolly Parton.
And they're delivered to their house with their name on them. It's like, mail for the kids. Youth at Risk Conference, which is going to be May, do you know the date?
I do.
I think it's the 19th. I'm not sure.
I'd have to double check. It's coming up. It's middle of May, and it's at Endicott College.
So it's really geared toward individuals who are working and caring for youth in a variety of settings. So it's a great conference, lots of good speakers. Also, YAR does the guide, the community resource guide, which there's a link for anything that you could need involving youth and family in Essex County. This is no longer coming soon. This is going to be opening in April. The new Family Resource Center over in Shetland Park will kind of spearheaded by us, run by us, supporting having educational programs, family events, play groups, arts and culture, parenting skills workshops, grandparent groups, financial workshops. You name it, we can do it there for families. There will be a clinician on staff there to help with families in need. It's sort of a crisis.
So as part of a statewide network, the state has provided this over 26 locations throughout Massachusetts. They added an additional 6 locations in the last few months. And so Pathways is fortunate to be your local Family Resource Center, so based out of Salem, but primarily targeting 12 communities around Salem, which includes Beverly, and that's any parent that has any particular issue can go there. And the slide on the screen really shows that it's a fully staffed operation, including a clinician. We have a clinical partner, Children's Friend and Family, which is a division of JRI, that really is there. As we all know, coming out of the pandemic, among the needs, childcare and mental health services for parents and children are 2 of the things that are cited most. And so we're very happy to be able to bring the Family Resource Center, which will open up in April. We actually just got approved for that on Friday, and so that's something that you will be able to offer to families as they have need.
And here's the model. Do you want to talk about the model?
It's a one-stop shop. It's Department of Children and Families, DCF funding, and it really is not just for DCF families. It's for families that are engaged with DCF and families that are not. And so the department really encourages families to get engaged before they really need the system, and that's why there's an opportunity to just go in and get additional resources from the staff. There's a school liaison. There are several staff that work specifically with families and the clinical staff. It really is, if a family has a need, whether it be food or whether it be counseling services or housing, just to go there, and their job is not just to support the family, but to refer them out and make sure that their needs are being met.
This is a picture of the building and the directory over there.
A very beautiful location over in Shetland Park in Building 1 with plenty of parking, and it's really just a phenomenal space for families.
Overlooks the water. It's really beautiful. Here's some more pictures of it.
I have to get you the newest pictures, Kirsten.
You do, with this doesn't have any furniture in it. So if you want to make a referral, anyone who wants to can use this link. And I think Todd has sent you guys some flyers and stuff that have all the QR codes on them, or you can reach directly out to me. And these are the people in charge right now of the enrollment in admissions. We have some career opportunities for people that are interested in early childhood. We have an apprentice program that's going to be starting up again this summer or this fall for people that are interested. I think that's the last one. But we also have a whole CDA track that people can do through Pathways. Always looking for substitutes and bus monitors and that kind of stuff right now. So there's lots of opportunity there for employment as well. That's it.
And in short, one, let me give a special thank you to Counselor for coordinating and setting it up for us to come, and Madam President and the entire council. Our entire pitch really is to make sure that you, as leaders in the community and the community at large, those who are at home, know that when you drive by and other than that parking lot, Pathways for Children is an agency that is a community resource. It's here for the community, and we want to make sure the community is aware of that and knows how to engage with us so that we can be stronger partners. And that is really, that's our pitch.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before you step away from the podium,
Yeah.
thanks for being here with us. We do have a few minutes before our first public hearing. Councilors, are there any questions or comments for Ms. Meyer, Mr. Mitchell, while they're here? Councilor Rand.
I do have a couple of questions. I'm curious about the Family Resource Center. It sounded like you could help high school age kids. Is that accurate?
So it is.
Resource
It's a
center?
family center, and so if a parent had a teenager that had some challenges, absolutely, they should just come over.
Good to know. And then I actually have two more. I have one easy question and one hard one, maybe.
We'll see if it's hard.
Okay. The easy question is your apprentice program paid?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic.
It's probably one of the best paid apprentice programs.
That's good to know. And what's the age range that you're looking for apprenticeships?
Adults.
Adults,
Yep.
okay.
And so one of the recruiting strategies we have is to talk to graduating seniors. So once they are out of high school, they are certainly eligible, and if they're interested in getting a career going.
Okay, thank you. And then here is what I kind of think is a hard question, and not meant to put you on the spot. But just thinking about the poverty level, I'm hopeful I'm sure that you think about that as an organization in terms of what you're able to fundraise to pay
Sure.
your employees. And this is why I think it's hard, because I'm not trying to,
Well, I have my water. I'm going to be like the mayor. If it gets too tough, I'm going to take a sip of water and pause.
I'm not trying to burn you, but I want to know, can your employees, are they able to make a living above the poverty level? working for your organization?
Well, I would answer that question this way. We have adjusted all of our rates. Our entry-level staff make at least minimum wage, meaning those apprentices, they start at just above minimum wage, and then we go up. We have some positions that have had increases of 30 and 40% over the last 3 years, and so we are committed to providing, not just a living wage, but a fair wage for the great job that our staff do. And so we fundraise in addition to use the resources that are given to us by the state. I would probably say our rates for the positions that we have are nowhere near the bottom for what we are asking staff to do. Not as high as we want to have, but really very competitive, and our benefits are phenomenal.
That's good to know.
Phenomenal.
And I know that's just nationwide, that there's a serious shortage for early childhood education staff, so I know it's not a problem you're going to solve by yourself, but I appreciate you answering honestly. And
our Beverly facility, for example, is fully staffed. Just FYI, I mean, we have a phenomenal team, and we really try to balance the job and compensation, both in salary and benefits, and just quality opportunity.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Rand. Great questions. Councillor Rotundo, did I see your hand?
Yeah, just a quick comment. I just want to thank you. I was able to take a tour of the facilities in Beverly, which was great. And actually, the credit goes to Councilor Rand for actually suggesting to invite you to council chambers. But I do want you to know with the Apple Village, which is sort of where our conversation started.
Yep.
It hasn't ended. They just have their whole own type of thing going on right now.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's an ongoing scenario that I look forward to continue working with you.
Yeah, me too. Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Rotundo. Any last questions or comments from the council?
Sorry to put my back to you the whole time.
So I'll just say the invitation to come and take a tour is open to anyone on the council or anyone in leadership that really wants to get the insight tour, as Councilor Rotundo did. You know, it's a phenomenal building right here in downtown Beverly, and we want everyone to feel connected to it as a community resource.
Thank you very much. And I just want to mention, you made the point with your slides to say sometimes people don't realize or don't think that there's profound need or families below the poverty line in the numbers that there are in Beverly. And when you said we don't think there is, we know there is. I think that's not lost on this council. I think that's something that we as a council have been thinking about, talking about, and I just appreciate you saying it that way, because sometimes communities have sort of a particular, I always call it the story we tell about ourselves, and I think it's really helpful anytime we're in public, we can have those conversations to help change the story we tell about ourselves, so that we really are seeing the breadth and depth of our community. So thank you for the work that you do, and thanks for being here with us tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This brings us almost, councillors, to our 8 o'clock public hearing, but we probably have enough time before we get there to just accept one set of minutes. And so we will accept the minutes from our Finance and Property Committee of the Whole meeting from March 13th, 2023. I would entertain a motion to approve that set of minutes. So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. That motion carries 8-0, and that set of minutes is approved. And that brings us to our 8 o'clock hearing. If there are members of the public arriving who intend to speak or would like to speak in any of the 3 public hearings, the sign-up sheets are on the desk in front of the city clerk. The first one is on National Grid petition concerning plastic gas main on Hill Street. We have 2 coming up after that regarding some free requests for free cash transfers. And so you can come up at any point and sign up to speak in those hearings, and we'll take members of the public in the order that they are signed up. So with that, I will call to order and open our posted 8 o'clock public hearing on Order 287. Ms. Kemp.
Order number 287, the City of Beverly, the City Council of the City of Beverly hold a public hearing on Monday, December 5th, 2022 at 8:20 p.m. at 191 Cabot Street, 3rd floor, Council Chambers, live stream on BevCam, relative to the petition from National Grid for a petition to install plastic gas main on Hale Street extended from existing stub near Cabot to be the regulator station at Boyle Street. And this was in the newspaper back in November.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kent. And so this public hearing has been continued as we were hoping to gather some more information, particularly Councillor Houseman had some specific questions. We do have Diana Cuddy from National Grid is here with us. So as we open this hearing, Ms. Cuddy, I'll go to you. I don't know if you would like to open with any updates or information that you would like to share, and then we'll go to members of the council and members of the public.
Okay, hi, my name is Diana Cuddy, National Grid, 170 Sylvan Road, 170 Data Drive, Waltham, Massachusetts. I'm here for the grant allocation for 8,050-foot gas main on Hale Street from Cabot to our regulator station on Boyles, and I was here previously, and I believe everything has been accounted for, other than finding out if we were able to get the mapping for the plastic gas main over the last 5 years in the city, which was being done through the city engineering, I believe.
Councillor Houseman.
Yes, yes, we have a map, and we have the spreadsheets, and a lot of information that went through that whole effort, so I want to extend my thanks to the cooperation that your office and National Grid Gas generally extended in helping the city engineering department help put this together. So thank you.
Okay, great.
I just want to mention, councillors are opening them, I see, but councillors, what Councillor Houseman was just referring to is if you are looking to reference that more specifically. Ms. Cuddy, Ms. Kent has an extra copy of this as well, if you need one for your
Love that,
reference.
sure. That would be very helpful.
Thank you, Ms. Kent. Did you do this, Scott? Did you do this? So are there questions or comments from the members of the council for Ms. Cuddy before we open for members of the public as well? Oh, Councillor Rand.
Thank you. I guess, so I have a comment sort of connected to just the idea of adding a gas line to our community. Because, please correct me if I'm wrong, this is a new gas line. It's secondary to delivering to homes. It's not actually this is not being requested by residents. This is kind of adding to the infrastructure just of gas delivery to the substation.
So actually, there's basically 3 different types of reasons for putting in a gas main. One is to replace leak-prone pipe, another is for reliability, and the other reason is growth. So this isn't a growth main, and it's not replacing a leak-prone pipe. What it is, it's partly a safety issue. It's adding another main out of the regulator station so that there's a backup. And then the other reason is to just reinforce the existing system.
So I guess this is a tough time for me to even hear the word reliability from National Grid, which has nothing to do with gas main, but does have to do with just today, a report was released by the UN, by their environmental commissions, just really simplifying and highlighting the dire situation that climate change has left us in. And their report really kind of broke down loss of human life related to no action, loss of human life related to some small action of mitigating climate change. And I just, as a city councilor, and I know this also is partially in Ward 2, but as a city councilor, I think that it's okay to think about a crisis that's being called global in a regional sense. And I see other communities that are actually banning additional gas connections in their communities. So I guess I'm of the mindset to not support this. I know we received some communication from Solicitor Williams that sort of was to the effect of we don't have a lot of control or leverage in this situation. So I guess through you, President Flowers, to Solicitor Williams, if you could sort of speak to my concerns of increasing an infrastructure that is basically harming our community, and our leverage to not support that at all. So Solicitor Williams, if you could kind of expound on the communication you sent to us that basically said we don't have leverage.
Thank you, Councillor Rand. Thank you, Solicitor.
Thank you.
Good evening, councilors. Sure, so there's a state statute, Chapter 164, that regulates the installation and maintenance of natural gas distribution lines. And Supreme Judicial Court decisions, which is the highest court in the state of Massachusetts, have held that that statute preempts local regulation. And there is a statute that says that utilities need the consent of the city council to open the streets. Case law has made that sort of almost an FYI, frankly. And I think that's because at a policy at a high level, a determination has been made that it's up to the Department of Public Utilities to make decisions about gas, natural gas distribution and installation of utilities, and that has not been delegated to municipalities. And beyond that, I totally understand your concern as a city councilor and as a citizen. In this world, I share those concerns. I don't think that this is the vehicle by which the city council can prevent that sort of policy determination, if that's kind of what you're asking.
Yeah.
Do you have a follow-up,
Yeah,
Councillor?
I do. I guess, yeah, I just don't totally, so I guess I'm curious about how other communities are limiting new gas lines. Are those
So
just-
that's different than this. This is an installation of a gas main
Yeah.
in the city streets. Those communities, there are a small number of communities
Yeah.
that are in a pilot program that's been authorized by the state legislature that's allowing them, basically through their building and zoning codes, to prevent new construction, which requires natural gas hookups. So I believe that's what you're thinking of. That's
Yes,
different
yeah.
from this.
Okay, so even that doesn't apply to what a utility company might want to install, right? That's just a residential.
Right, so without this special legislation that's recently been enacted, the small number of communities that are doing that did not previously have the authority to prevent anyone from constructing within the city or town, or installing requirements, or allowing natural gas hookups, basically.
Okay.
And we currently in the city of Beverly don't have the ability to prohibit that because we are not among those communities. But I think there is hope throughout the state that everybody will eventually have that option, but we don't have it right now.
Okay,
And that has solely to do with residential hookups.
okay. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to hearing councilors' discussion on this idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rand. Thank you, Solicitor Williams. Councillor Houseman, then we'll go to Councillor Rotundo, please.
Thank you. Yes, my question, I guess, is also for the city solicitor. I would second all the comments made by Councillor Rand, including the United Nations report that just was released today on the subject of climate change and its global and local impacts. I know that our current Governor Healy, when Brookline tried to block installation of gas lines, according to the coverage, this was a number of years ago, basically agreed with the policy, but as Attorney General indicated that the city did not have the ability basically, they were subject to preemption by the Department of Public Utilities. So that Attorney General is now our governor, and within the last week or so, appointed as I understand it, 2 out of 3 commissioners on the DPU, the Department of Public Utilities. So I wonder, you and I have talked about possible conditions that might, exchange information about possible conditions that we could impose. I guess the question I have, and I'm heartened to hear you share the concerns that have been expressed, whether there would be any procedural way, given that the National Grid cable transmission project is underway and will continue for at least another year, and National Grid Gas has acknowledged that their project will follow chronologically that project, whether there's any latitude or authority that the council might have to try to basically put a pause on the application and with the hope that an administrative action, administrative appeal to the DPU with its new commissioners, who are more in line with the public policy perspectives of the new governor, whether you would consider that to be a fool's errand, or whether you think that would be something possible that the council could talk about and consider.
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Solicitor.
Sure, of course. So, again, I just want to reiterate, I certainly share personally the concerns that the councilors are expressing on the topic of climate change. I think to the councilor's question, I'm aware of Governor Healy's appointments, and, a new governor can signal change within the DPU. The issue that we're dealing with right now, though, is these are Supreme Judicial Court decisions regarding state statutes. So if Governor Healy wants to make changes, she would need, in my opinion, and to work with the state Senate and our House of Representatives to amend the existing state statutes, which because currently the Supreme Judicial Court is saying they are preempted. So this isn't a DPU policy issue. This is a state statute in the interpretation by the SJC. To the question about whether we can pause it or not, I know we had some discussion a few months ago about whether there was any time within which the council had to act. And in preparing for this evening's meeting, I did find a section of the statute that says if the council does not act within 90 days of receipt of the application, then the public utility can go to the DPU and get permission from the DPU. So I think that effectively answers your question. I can continue, but I assume you can deduce from that what my answer is.
I don't mind if you make it a little bit more explicit.
I don't think there's authority to hit pause. If you do, put it this way, if you do, my opinion is that National Grid could go to the DPU and just get permission from National Grid. So I don't think it would achieve necessarily the goal you're trying to achieve.
Okay, and so you would, I gather what you're saying, really, this is more of a legislative matter. The legislature needs to act through statutory authority, and the ability for the city council to pause in the event that might occur, you think effectively does not exist.
I think a combination of the state statutes as interpreted by the Supreme Judicial Court leave us in that situation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Solicitor. Thank you, Counselor. I want to go to Counselor Rotundo, but I want to pause us for a moment, just to pause this public hearing so that we can open the posted 8:15 public hearing on Order 43, and then we'll recess that one so we can keep going with this one. Ms. Kent.
Order number 43, City of Beverly, the order that the City of Council of the City of Beverly hold a public hearing on Monday, March 20th, at 8:15 PM at 191 Cabot Street, 3rd floor, council chambers, live stream on BevCam, relative to a request for a transfer of $250,000 from the city's certified free cash balance to be placed into the city's reserve for unforeseen within FY23 operating budget. And this was published in the newspaper on Friday, March 10th.
Thank you, Ms. Kent. I would entertain a motion to recess that public hearing to 8:40.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. That carries 8-0. So we'll recess that one to 8:40, and then we'll resume our public hearing on 287. We will pick up with Councilor Rotundo.
Ms. Williams, I guess this is more of a hypothetical, but it isn't as, so in essence, what it's being said is between the SJC's decision and the statute that we really don't have this, these hearings are more like a dog and pony show to me. It's, I mean, we can't put conditions, we have 90 days to get it done, and if we don't do it, in essence, the utility can go to the DPU and say, hey, they're not working with us, we can go through. Am I making that simplified?
So I don't think that's an unfair characterization. In one of the court cases, it was Boston Gas Company versus City of Boston. It's a 2018. It's a Superior Court decision, so it's not the highest court in the state. But Boston effectively argued that, like, why do we have this statute if we can't impose conditions of substance? And the court said, well, that the SJC has said that consent means you can ask for an administrative fee, and you can ask the public utility to supply you with any information that they have provided to the DPU with respect to certain issues. Perhaps this particular project, although it's my understanding that they actually don't submit something to the DPU other than a 48 hours notice that the construction is going to begin. I think you could have a discussion about small things which aren't really, it's not the big thing that you're concerned about, right? It's not climate change. I think you can ask questions about traffic management, hours of work, rodent control. I don't think those are beyond fair game for discussion to understand what's going to be happening. But as a matter of policy, I don't think the grant of location is something, from what I can tell, that you have the authority to withhold because on the basis that, as a matter of policy, we as a city don't support anything that would advance further use of fossil fuels.
Councilor Rotundo, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I do, and I guess it's because you had said the administrative fee part, and I think, I don't know if this would be a question to Ms. Williams or if it would be to Ms. Cudahy's. What conditions, because the road is fairly new, and I think for me, I look at the road conditions itself and what guarantees. I mean, I've seen, and I think we've all witnessed many roads being dug up by National Grid for gas mains. Some of them are in pretty terrible shape, even though they claim that they were already in bad shape. They're still in worse shape. I can mention Cabot Street alone itself. It was done 13 years ago. It's not perfect, but it's definitely not good right now. Right now you're driving, like, it's just constant bumps going all the way down towards the Salem-Beverly line. Hale Street's a much newer street. And it may have already been stated, and so maybe I'm asking for a refresh because it has been many months now. What conditions or what is going to be guaranteed, besides the fact that you're going to be piggybacking on the N192 line to do that, which has already been decided, but what guarantees from the National Grid gas side in regards to the roads being dug up? Is there be additional administrative fees or not?
So typically, the pavement restoration is part of the permit, as well as the traffic management plan, road and control, things like that. So when we apply for a permit, we will typically supply all of that. The hours of operation and pavement restoration is usually a condition of the permit based on it's what's happening then, what it looks like then. So that's basically how it would work. We do have a pavement restoration team now at National Grid, so if anything has failed in the last 5 years, these particular jobs are done by a contractor, so it's their handiwork that's failing, so we would want to know so we could go back, because we've paid for them to do this work. So we can go back and have it restored if if the trenches have failed.
Again, I'll reference more so the most recent project was because of adding an additional pipeline, gas pipeline, through downtown, and it still hasn't been restored. They put in the temporary patching, and they still haven't come back to do it. We've asked, let me say me specifically, I can't say we, let me say myself, have asked engineer to notify National Grid what's going on. Are we going to have the 6-foot wide reclaimed that's going to be patched better? That's a heck of a lot better than what we have right now. It just seems that it's an ongoing conversation that's not getting any resolution. My fear is the same thing with Hale Street, that is a much newer street.
Yeah, another thing is, it depends on the time of year that they finish, because they usually wait 90 days for settlement, just naturally occurring from the construction and things like that. And then, based on the time of year, they don't do a final patch in the winter. They wait until the spring, summer, the construction season to come back in and do a final restoration patch.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rotundo. Councillor Houseman.
Yeah, this is a question for the city solicitor, again, relating to the possible conditions that the city could apply. So with the cable transmission project, we have 33 conditions, and I've sort of, gone through them this evening a bit, and some of them, like hours of operation and so forth, would seem to apply. Is there any reason why the council couldn't look to this grant of location and the conditions in it as a template for the kinds of conditions that we might approve this application subject to?
Thank you, Solicitor.
Not to end my
So,
sentence with a preposition.
I can totally appreciate the analogy, and it's curious that the council had so much control and input on that project, and it seems like so little on this one. And all I can say is that they're just two completely different processes. That I know it's not a great rationale, but the fact of the matter is, the SJC has not said that state statutes preempt local regulation of installation of electrical distribution or transmission lines. And that's something we actually confirmed with Ramiere's law firm, who, as you recall, advised the council on the high voltage line. So they're just two different things.
Thank you, Solicitor.
If I may follow up, so in the various exchanges we've had about allowable conditions, I thought things like hours of operation would be allowed. You're saying they would not be
So
allowed?
I think my recommendation was, I think it's fair to ask Grid about those things. But I think that it has to be more of a dialogue and questions. If I were you, I would say, what are your hours of operation? Can you commit to those hours of operation? Are you in agreement that we can put those conditions on this consent? I think it's the case law says what it says. So I think you don't necessarily have the unilateral power that you had with respect to the other application. Ms. Cuddy, I'm not sure, when you reference permit, through the chair to National Grid, were you talking about from engineering or this one?
Engineering.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, are you willing to speak to what the plan is with respect to hours of operation and rodent control and things of that nature, or?
So we do typically.
I'm going to step aside.
I'm actually going to, before you answer that, if it's okay, I'm going to just pause us because we're at 8:25, and so I'm going to open the 8:25 hearing and then recess it so we can stay with this one. Councillor Sweeney, I know you're waiting to get in next. So I will pause us, open our 8:25 posted public hearing on Order 44. Ms. Kent.
Order number 44, the City of Beverly ordered that the City Council of the City of Beverly hold a public hearing on Monday, March 2023 at 8:25 p.m. at 191 Cabot Street, 3rd floor, Council Chambers, live stream on BevCam relative to a request for a transfer of $993,156 from the city's certified free cash balance to be placed into the city's stabilization fund, and second transfer request to transfer $198,631 from the free cash balance to be placed into the city's OPEB trust. This was in the newspaper March 10th.
Thank you, Ms. Kent. I would entertain a motion to recess this public hearing to 8:50 PM.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. That carries 8-0, so we'll recess public hearing on order 44 to 8:50 PM, and we'll resume our public hearing on order 287. Ms. Cuddy, I apologize.
No problem. Yeah, so typically those conditions are in the permit because sometimes it depends on the time of year that the permit's pulled, whether in school, if it's near a school, whether school's in session. And the road control, I have seen that there's certain conditions. If it's over 100 foot in length for a trench, then they do require it. If it's under it, they don't. But all of that usually comes with the permit through either DPW or engineering, because they are so familiar, with what the day-to-day happenings are on the particular streets that the construction's going on. Typically, there's a traffic management plan that's submitted as well. We always have a police detail, sometimes 2, sometimes 3. So that's always in, helping with controlling the traffic, in addition to like a traffic management plan on paper that has like all the signage spelled out and that kind of thing.
If I may, through you to follow, I'll limit to one question and.
And then we'll go to Councilor Sweeney. Thank you, Councilor.
Yeah. So just to take something like road and control. So the council and the city has had a lot of experience sort of digging in and doing a lot of research on rodent control and rodent management as a result of the National Grid electric cable program. And we have basically a pilot program. The National Grid electric has found very useful and effective, which is using non-bait rodent control with what's called smart boxes. They're sort of electronic boxes that capture the rats. Is based upon sort of the friendly agreement that the solicitor outlined. Would National Grid Gas be agreeable to committing, I gather in writing, or at least through the permitting process of the engineering department, to commit to that kind of program for rodent control as opposed to baiting, which is more traditional?
I would defer that to the city engineering department when we apply for the permit. We have a consultant that actually prepares the rodent control plans, and they can work with the city on, whatever they find the best to work, because certainly we want the best too. So I'm not familiar with how they write up and what their exact specifications are for rodent control. And I don't know if it varies by application or what, but yeah, we do have a consultant that specializes in rodent control that draws up their plan for our permit application for our specific job.
Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Sweeney.
Thank you, Madam President. And I'll just note before posing the question, I did reach out to our city engineer. I wasn't able to get in touch with him before this meeting. We had been playing phone tag today. So this may be a question that he has the answer to, but I'll pose it generally to city staff and maybe in a more direct question to the solicitor at the end. But essentially, my understanding is that there have been arrangements in the city where a utility completes the work and it is more advantageous for both the utility and the city to compensate the city, and I believe this was essentially the arrangement outlined in the grant of location, where the utility compensates the city for the work of repaving or repatching or otherwise repairing the opening in the roadway. And I would certainly want to hear from the city engineer as to whether that would be something that is negotiated between National Grid and the city through the permitting process that you alluded to, or if similar to the grant of location process, and maybe this will be my question for you, Solicitor Williams, whether that is something that we would, as a council, want to discuss with our city engineering department and National Grid prior to any approval here, as to whether it would be more beneficial for National Grid to compensate the city for the work of repaving or repairing, as Councilor Rotundo mentioned, the long stretch of road that will be impacted that was fairly recently paved, as opposed to having National Grid do the work themselves.
So as part of the grant allocation, there isn't any compensation being offered. I'm not familiar with that in the past. If I guess that would be a conversation for you and the city engineer.
So I guess my question to pose to you, in your experience, typically National Grid has done the work themselves for the utility projects in the city and has not compensated the city to do any repaving or patching work required?
Not that I'm aware of, but the grant
Okay.
allocation process is relatively new here, so this is only my second one.
Okay.
But again, that would be with permitting, since that's the city engineer that does the permitting. But the grant allocation isn't offering any compensation for paving.
Okay,
It's just, okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Solicitor Williams, did you have something you wanted to add there?
Sure. So the statute that I've been talking about that's been held to preempt this particular request for consent requires that the public use, it states the utility shall put all such street lanes and highways in as good a repair as they were in when opened, and upon failure to do so within a reasonable time shall be guilty of nuisance. So that's what the statute says with respect to this request for consent. If the engineering department is able to require something else of National Grid, that's great. I don't see the authority in the context of this grant or this decision the council is making for the council to require that.
Thank you, Solicitor. Am I the only one wondering what the penalty for being a nuisance is?
I'm probably considered a nuisance a lot of the time.
You walked into that.
Yeah.
Are there other questions from the council at this moment? If not, I'd like to go, we have one member of the public who'd like to speak, and I'd like to go to that member of the public, and then we can take further questions. So, Mr. Mahood, would you like to come to the podium? It's nice to see you again, Mr. Mahood. Nice to see you too. And as usual, I've given away your name, but if you would just restate your name and address for the record, and then please address the council with what you would like to say.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm David Mahood, 191 Lothrop Street. I didn't plan on quoting Lawrence Peter Barra, but this is deja vu all over again, unfortunately. Anyway, I prepared just a note. I've gotten more information, so some of this may not be perfectly relevant, but this is what I prepared beforehand. So I just said to my esteemed city councilors, I've been made aware that another gas pipeline project, Order 287, is being approved or authorized by the council. And while I'm not fully aware of the project scope, I would suggest once again that we seek some accountability from the parties responsible for the work to meet all efforts to reduce our fossil fuel dependence. It's widely known that we're not on pace to meet a 1.5 degrees Celsius cap for emissions, mentioned again today. This has disturbing potential for upheaval. But let's just focus on what it is costing us in dollars alone. According to data collected by the National Centers for Environmental Information, a division of NOAA, climate disasters last year cost the U.S. economy $169 billion. And that's just the economic equation, not the toll it took on lives, habitat, or loss of biodiversity. It's incumbent on all of us to work towards slowing the use of fossil fuels as our prime energy sources. Beverly, like all cities, has plans to meet net zero goals, yet we keep approving fossil fuel projects regardless. As constituents, we expect our city council and our state legislators to be our environmental watchdogs. And as such, any large state or municipal project should have these measures in place. How is this project in line with our city goals for sustainability? If you all won't make this a mandatory process for these types of projects, then how can we, as concerned constituents, expect anything to significantly improve? I'm asking us to do better. Please stop greenlighting fossil fuel infrastructure projects without making all efforts to seek more sustainable options. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mahood. And thanks for your patience. I know we've had to move a few back as we've gone along, so thanks for being here and thanks for waiting. I do want to mention, if there are folks watching on BevCam, and you're intending to come down to speak on any of the public hearings, you can still come down. You can still sign up as long as they're open. This one's still open at this point, so don't hesitate. Just because we've gone to the members of the public, we can still accommodate public voices. And that's always one of the important parts of these processes. Are there other questions or comments from members of the council at this time? Councilor Houseman, was that your hand?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just be brief. You know, in looking at the order of conditions for the cable transmission project, noted that 2 councilors did not vote for it. In that situation, I voted for it because I felt that the conditions we could impose justified a favorable vote in exchange for getting those conditions enforced. What I'm hearing this evening is we basically have no control over those conditions. And I guess even though it may be a futile effort, I guess I'm inclined at this point to vote against this application. And I would, I guess, encourage my colleagues to consider also doing the same thing, enforcing National Grid, to go back to the DPU. It just feels almost like a vote of conscience at this point that we should not be participating, even if our vote is only somewhat symbolic in that respect. I mean, this is going to have a real economic impact and infrastructure impact and quality of life impact on my constituents in Ward 4 in a big way, on an essentially brand new street for all intents and purposes. So I understand that the guidance of the city solicitor, but I would encourage the council to do something somewhat unusual in this case and simply vote to deny and let National Grid go about its way, because it doesn't sound to me as though an approval in this case is anything other than essentially moral support for what National Grid's plan is. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Houseman. Other questions or comments? Thank you. Councilor Rand was trying to be supportive. Councilor Rotundo was not going to speak at this time. But good job, Wards 1 and 2. Thanks for looking out for each other down there.
Team.
Council President?
Councilor Sweeney.
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate your comments, Councilor Houseman. However, I would want to make sure that I fully understand the impact of any no votes.
That's
and
fair.
May reiterate some questions that have already been asked to just try to clarify. And Ms. Cuddy, I'll pose these questions to you. So it's my understanding, based on Councilor Rand's question, that this is a new gas main. It's not replacing an existing gas main. Is that correct, or did I misunderstand
Correct,
the
yes.
response?
But it's not a growth gas main. There's 3 types of main replacement for a leak-prone pipe. There's reliability, which is what this is, and then there's growth mains to provide gas to a new facility, a new neighborhood, things like that. This is to enhance the existing system and to add a safety feature with the regulator station, because it's tying in on the regulator station on Boyle Street. It will have another outlet in case something were to happen to one. So it's for safety and reliability. That is why we're proposing to put in this new gas main.
And thank you for that response. To build off of that, essentially this would impact the service of customers who currently rely on natural gas in their existing home
Exactly.
infrastructure,
Existing
heating
customers.
setup.
Right, to meet the demand, on colder days and all that kind of stuff, but just existing customers, not new customers.
Okay, thank you for that. And with those answers in mind, my concern, and Councilor Houseman, I certainly understand the impact that your constituents and me being an at-large councilor, they're my constituents also. There would be a notable impact to day-to-day life in this area as this work is taking place. My concern would just be that, given what the solicitor has outlined as our lack of leverage in this circumstance, and that the infrastructure would service existing homes that already have natural gas hookups, I guess I'd be concerned that we would potentially worsen a situation where we don't really have any good opportunities to meet the goals here in this specific circumstance of working toward making Beverly a more sustainable city, which, based on comments both tonight and in previous discussions, appears to be the goal of every member of this council. And so that would just be my concern in, as you suggest, voting no here to almost send a message to National Grid in this circumstance.
So I know we have a couple counselors waiting to get in. I'm going to pause this because we're at 8:40, so we do need to take care of recessing another hearing. So I will reopen the posted public hearing on Order 43, and I would entertain a motion to recess this one to 9 o'clock.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. That carries 8-0, so we'll recess that one to 9 o'clock. And we will reopen the hearing on 287. Counselor Feldman, let's go to you. We haven't heard from you yet.
Thank you. I appreciate both Counselor Houseman and Counselor Sweeney's comments. This is challenging for me because I'm very environmentally aware and care deeply about making a more long-term sustainable, even beyond the reliability of current infrastructure and gas. But if I understand this correctly, and this is more of a question for the city solicitor, I am inclined to be on the same side as Councilor Houseman in that if we do vote against this, this is just, they still have the same thing will likely go about and happen when they go to the DPW, correct? DPU. I knew there was a letter off. But, so it seems that I understand what Councilor Sweeney is saying in that I have residents that rely on this, I have constituents that rely on this infrastructure and still want natural gas, and I understand that, but it doesn't seem like my vote one way or another is going to impact the outcome of this project regardless, other than me giving them a vote of support in this project going forward. Am I understanding that correctly?
Solicitor Williams, I think if you're willing, I think that was a clarifying question to you. Is that right, Councilor Feldman?
Yes.
Just clarifying.
So I think, and I'll do my best to answer it, and you may want to pose the question to Grid as well, what they do, what their plan would be. I know with respect to electric transmission lines, there were two avenues of appeal for the utility in that situation. One would be to Superior Court, in which case the city would be a party to it, or the city council, and or they could have gone to the DPU, back to the DPU. I don't know specifically if both avenues of appeal exist in this particular situation, but I feel pretty confident in saying, at a minimum, they can go to the DPU. They certainly will have some right of appeal. So, and I guess, and I'm just, the city or the city council, or both, could be parties, which would mean, devoting resources to that, which is, you have a right to vote however you want. You're just asking me, like, what the impact could be, so.
I would like to know those impacts, though.
But I would be curious to hear from National Grid.
Let's go ahead and ask Ms. Cuddy. Ms. Cuddy, is this a question that you can help us with at this time? What the next steps would be for National Grid in the event of a denial of this application?
I honestly don't know. I don't know what we would do next. We do have personnel that work with the DPU specifically, and they meet regularly going over projects and different things. So I would guess that maybe I would see what they say about what they wanted to do next, especially because it's a little safety and reliability issue and not just a growth project. So it's a long answer, I don't know.
I appreciate that. I'm going to go to Councilor St. Hilaire because we haven't heard from him yet, but Ms. Cuddy, before you step away, can I just ask you, this is my clarifying question. You mentioned a few reasons why there might be this kind of work. One, you said is a leak-prone pipe. Am I right in understanding this is not a leak-prone pipe?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Councillor St. Hilaire.
So, thank you, Madam President. I've been listening to the discussion here, and I think, on the one hand, I really appreciate the passion and the sort of policy objectives that I think most of us share in terms of what we want to see happen in our city. But also looking at, from my experience at the state level and listening to the solicitor, I think we should take her advice. I really don't think we have the authority here to do much of anything. It's going to impact our existing customers if we say no, and I don't think it's going to achieve any of our objectives. And I would suggest putting this kind of energy into some things that we can control, and maybe that's something we can all work on together. But I just don't think this is the place to make those sort of policy decisions.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Houseman.
Yeah, I just want to ask Ms. Cuddy, rather than make a statement, ask her just a couple of factual questions. As I understand it, there is an existing 8 or 8.5 inch gas line through this entire section already, pre-existing, correct?
I'm going to have to look. I do believe
That's what you have said in previous.
Right, I believe so, yep. I'm just trying to remember if it's plastic or... I think it was an 8 inch, if I remember right, plastic. There. Sorry, this screen is so small. There's an existing 6 inch plastic on, let's go through, so that ties into, I'm so sorry. It's in.
If I may, while
sections.
she is looking,
Please.
just say that for the record, in the past, what's been communicated to us has been an 8 inch main already exists along this line. What they're proposing to do is to put in an additional 12 inch line right next to it. That's what's been described to us in the past. There's no showing that I've heard, other than Ms. Cuddy's representation as a representative of National Grid, that this is going to do anything other than add capacity. There's no showing that's been made that there's something unsafe about what we have. There is no showing that there's a demand for this additional gas. I haven't heard from any of my constituents that they have had a shortage of gas supplied to their house with the existing 8 inch main. So I would agree with Councillor Sweeney if I had something to work with that said there was either a safety issue here or somehow people were running out of natural gas supply. But I've heard zero indication of that from either my residents or from the showing from National Grid. It's just sort of a bald statement that, well, kind of just in case. But I just interpret that as a way of increasing the ability of National Grid to add additional hookups. So I guess in response to Councillor St. Hilaire, I mean, I think the additional potential advantage to doing what I sort of has suggested here on the fly is that if one of the avenues that National Grid seeks to pursue is going back to DPU to say, hey, Beverly's not playing ball, we want you to, supersede them, is that the DPU now has 2 different commissioners, and that maybe a different result would occur, which would save my constituents, our constituents, quality of life, disruption to their life, quality of life, and help us out economically by not having a street that's brand new, essentially torn up. So.
Thank you, Councillor.
So yeah, you're correct. It's an 8 inch plastic gas main that was installed in 2012. And just to reference the supply issue, the company has an I&R department, and they monitor the pressures in the reg stations, and so they wouldn't just throw this in the ground for no reason. So they must see that the supply needs to be enhanced by the new one that I'm here tonight before you for. And it adds a safety feature by adding that extra line coming out of the regulator station.
It would be, I'm sorry.
I'm going to pause us because I need to recess another hearing. So we're going to reopen the public hearing, order 44. I'd entertain a motion just to recess this back to 8:55.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll recess that to 8:55, and Councillor Houseman, we'll go back to you. It's seeming to me like we may be moving towards a point where,
I'll be quiet.
not just you, it's seeming like we've had a chance to sort of see where we're all coming down on this. We could probably get to this portion of this public hearing. But Councillor Houseman, you have time if you'd like to respond.
No, it might be informing to see internal documents from National Grid that Ms. Cuddy is referring to, that would provide some basis for me supporting what Councillor Sweeting's line of, questioning is. But on the face of it right now, I guess I still think that I would vote against this.
Councillor Sweeney.
Thank you, Madam President. I agree with Councilor Houseman. I don't know where we are in the timetable at this point. I believe I saw a November 22 date on one of the petitions, and probably beyond 90 days at this point. So if National Grid would be willing to share those documents, as Councilor Houseman requested, I think that would be helpful. I still am generally of the same mind as Councilor St. Hilaire, in that it does not appear to me that this vote is the best avenue to achieve some of our goals towards making Beverly more sustainable, some projects that the mayor outlined in his State of the City speech, or potentially looking at how we partner with the state to incentivize more sustainable new energy systems or conversions of existing energy systems. But Councilor Houseman does make a very good point about really, truly understanding the need for this work before voting one way or the other. So I echo his request.
Thank you, councillors. Solicitor Williams, was there something that you were going to respond to in that?
I think a question that would be fair to ask National Grid is whether they have filed anything with the DPU related to existing issues with leaks with the 8-inch line or reliability. Because I think, according to one of the cases, you can ask for documents that they have filed with the DPU. So I don't know if those documents exist, but I think that's a fair question to ask.
Thank you, Solicitor. So, Ms. Cuddy, we'll go to you. Are there documents that National Grid has filed with the DPU regarding leaks or other safety issues with this 8-inch pipe?
So the safety issue is that it's a backup in the regulator station. It offers another line out of it. There are most likely no leaks. That's why we're using plastic now. This line is only 13 years old. So I highly doubt there's any leaks there. If there are, if we do find a leak, of course, the DPU is notified instantaneously. But I doubt there's any leaks in this line.
Thank you. Councillor Rotundo.
So I guess the original question was, have you filed any documentation with the DPU in regards to reliability or any safety issues currently for this 8-inch line on Hale Street that you want to add the 12-inch line for?
So
Justify it.
the safety issue isn't something we need to apply to them
Okay.
for. We just, enhancing the regulator station by adding another line. The reliability is just, it's not a gas main that residents will tie into. There won't be any services in it. It's just enhancing the system.
So then the answer is no, you have not filed any documents with the DPU
No,
in regards to
I
this.
don't
That's
think so.
really the question we're asking, is
Right,
yes or no,
right,
And not
yeah.
the explanation. So there is no documentation for it.
Right.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Houseman.
Ms. Cuddy, is it National Grid Gas's policy to install duplicate lines everywhere they have an existing line?
It depends. It depends on how old the existing line is, what the size is, what the demand is.
Well, in this case, the gas line is a plastic line, which is what you would put in with the new lines.
Right.
And we've heard representations that they are good for at least 50 years, and you've said there are no leaks.
Right.
So I guess when you say it depends, it begs the question why a duplicate line of greater capacity is here. To follow up on the dialogue with Councilor Sweeney, would National Grid Gas be willing to share with us your internal documents relating to, hopefully we could understand them, but relating to the nature of, pressure or what's going on with these lines that somehow suggests that in this particular circumstance, there's really a demand or safety need for more than doubling the capacity along this stretch.
Right, so the existing 8-inch line, it depends, every situation's different. Sometimes there's an existing low-pressure line and then an intermediate line alongside it, or high pressure, and it just has to do with whether it's an integrity line, a service line, a growth, which was this one originally, which is having services to residents off of it. This is not either of those. This is not replacing leak-prone pipe. It's not a growth main. So, so that's why there are two. This won't have any services. It's just reinforcing the system in Beverly.
So with due respect, Madam President.
Let's pause for a second because it's 8:55, so we'll just reopen the hearing on Order 44, and I'd entertain a motion to recess that to 9:15.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Let's go back to 287, and then Councilor Houseman, and then we'll go to Councilor St. Hilaire.
With due respect, my question was, would National Grid be willing to share the documentation that Councilor Sweeney and I were referring to that would back up or provide some sort of indication or support or evidence for the necessity for this line, for safety or other reasons?
So in the work management system, the engineering synopsis is there, and you have a copy of that on the plans, the original plans that were submitted with the grant allocation, and that basically is telling the story. That's
It refers to what you've already filed, and would not be willing to provide any additional documentation, internal documentation relating to this line?
That's the documentation. They usually print that on the drawings themselves, and the recommendation is, it goes into detail on page 2, I think it is. Let me get my glasses.
Councilor St. Hilaire, would you want to get in there?
I have a question for Ms. Williams, if that's all right.
Yes.
Do we have any authority to dictate what size line or what type of resiliency National Grid needs for their lines? Is that part of our scope of authority here?
I think the case law says that the answer to that question is no.
Thank you. And I guess to Councilor Houseman, again, I appreciate the passion and the interest, and I don't necessarily disagree. I just don't know that this is going to have the outcome that you're hoping here.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other questions or comments from the council at this time? Councilor Feldman.
Yes, I mean, I just...
Slowest hand motion.
I guess I'm just kind of stuck on two things in terms of assessing how I would vote on this, and the two things are, one, hard data that shows me the justification for the need to enhance this line from National Grid. Because from what I can tell, nationwide, people are moving away from natural gas, including my own household. So I'm just questioning the need for that. And I think the bigger thing is, without knowing what National Grid would do if we were to deny this, if the justification is weak, and this was kind of picked because it could have been a softball, then how are we to know this wouldn't just be dropped? If, like, it might not even go to DPU. This is hard for me to know whether it would be, a catastrophic use of the city's resources if we were to end up in litigation going to a higher authority, whereas if this is not a strong justification, and I don't know the data behind that, then there's a likelihood, if I were to be on the National Grid side of this, that I would just move on to another project and not utilize my own resources. So I'm stuck on those two pieces of information that I think are critical in me moving forward with voting on this.
I was just going to say, I've never been asked whether we'll go to the DPU. That's the only reason I don't know. I mean, maybe they have a policy.
Yeah.
I just don't know it.
I'm not trying to put
Yeah,
you
no, no, I
personally
just-
on the spot. I just don't have, I don't think anyone has any precedent enough for this, and we're in a time where we are, as a society, kind of a lot of households are transitioning away from natural gas and moving to other alternate resources. So we're at this crossroads, I think, in terms of infrastructure. We have our streets torn up all the time. We have, and I just don't want to put good money after bad in terms of where we're voting with the direction of our city if we're going to, for infrastructure that might be unnecessary and outdated within 10 years. That's my crux of it, nothing personal.
No, that's right. And we are looking into other things as well, introducing hydrogen, not recycled methane, but a couple of other programs that we would still use the existing infrastructure, but it would be supplemented with non-fossil fuel type of fuel.
So these mains could be used for a different form of.
Right, well, we're looking into right now adding hydrogen into the natural gas system, which isn't a fossil fuel when it's burned, so it's all evolving, but it would still go into the existing infrastructure.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Cuddy. Thank you, Councillor Feldman. Any last question or comment from the council? So, Councillor Sweeney, I'm going to come to you. I will just open public hearing on Order 43 and entertain a motion to recess it to 9:05.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. So we'll recess public hearing in Order 43 to 9:05, and Councillor Sweeney will go back to you for 287.
Thank you. Just posing this question to Solicitor Williams, building off of Councilor Feldman's comments. What would the concern be for the city council if we were to vote no on this proposal, aside from the fact that it appears to be the case law is on the side of National Grid in the event that they want to appeal our decision to the DPU? And I asked, just looking at the submission materials, the petition date's November 1st. We're already 90 days beyond that. And is there anything other than just that fact that we may very well have our decision overturned? Would there be any other liability that the city would be opening itself up to?
Thank you, Solicitor. Thank you, Councillor.
I think that if that's what you're going to base your decision on, I would like some more time to look into that more closely. I think at a minimum, Grid would have some sort of a right of appeal. And what we have found from research is that it's in Superior Court. And the Superior Court cases and the SJC cases aren't even about the denial of a request for a grant of consent. They're about conditions that are attached to it. So if that's, if the details of that are important to your decision, I would like some more time to think about whether it's more than just being tied up in litigation and having city resources devoted to that. I don't think that there's authority, as I have mentioned, to deny the request for consent based on concerns about expanding our reliance on fossil fuels.
Okay, thank you. And Council President, if I may just pose the question to Ms. Cuddy. If we were to delay a decision this evening to a later meeting date, given that we're already well beyond the 90 days, would National Grid submit any additional data or other materials as requested by Councilors Houseman and Feldman, or would National Grid plan on maintaining these materials and awaiting a decision from the City Council without any supplemental submissions for council review?
So what was the supplemental?
Like if there was any other data or justification that we haven't seen as a council yet that National Grid has, would that, if it exists, would something like that be submitted to the council, or otherwise would that not be the plan of National Grid?
I don't think so. I think we're pretty transparent on the plans. Everything is on there. On page 2, the construction notes, all that kind of stuff. I'm just trying to think what else there is that I could provide.
If I may, to be more pointed, what was the data that chose this location? That's I think what we're looking for. Like what pinpointed this specific area to be replaced. Am I correct in saying, like, what brought us to that location?
So that was an engineering review, and because of the regulator station, that's usually what triggers to have the extra line coming in for safety, and then they do calculations from that.
I want those calculations. That's
I
what I
don't
want.
know if I think they're on here. I'm just trying to look through the plans.
That's what I mean, it wouldn't be for you right now. It would be something that we would like, it would be historical data that supported that we're not, the expectation wouldn't be tonight. It would be, could we go to National Grid and receive that historical data that supported that regulator?
Usually they put it on the plans. It says engineering recommends the blah, blah, blah. So the granular details of how they calculated it, I don't know. I don't have that. I don't know. I don't know what you would know from that, because I'm just trying to think, like, if they had calculated something, I don't know.
We would just want to talk to an engineer directly, probably from National Grid, have their opinion on how they came to that decision, that location. That's kind of the, and that you would not know that off the top of your head.
Right, exactly, right.
But yeah.
Solicitor Williams, are you trying to get in this conversation?
Well, I think that if there is a document referenced on page 2 of the plans in the upper left-hand corner. It says construction notes, scope of work. There's a National Grid work order number. And then it says as part of the FY23, and I don't know what that says, GRT, REPA program, strategic asset and system planning recommends the following. So there may be a report, if that's what you're looking for.
I see where you're looking at, Solicitor.
I mean, I still don't think, that the council has the authority to deny the request based on the content of that, but I think you can ask for it.
So, Ms. Cuddy, would it be possible if this public hearing remained open for National Grid to supply us with the FY23 GRT, I'm going to go with Solicitor Williams' pronunciation, program, strategic asset and system planning system planning report? Is that possible for us to get a copy of that?
I don't know. I'd have to check. I don't know if it's actually a report or just a calculation in the computer, but I can certainly ask.
So given that it sounds like there are some questions or documentation that counselors are interested in, Ms. Cuddy, I believe, is saying that she would need some time to ask for this information. I would entertain a motion to recess this public hearing to our April 3rd meeting at 8 p.m. in the hopes that we would receive some of this documentation from National Grid.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So motion carries 8-1, and so we'll resume, 7.
I think it's 6-2.
Oh, gosh, Counselor Bowen is not here. I had the same problem with math last time. Solicitor Williams had to jump up. So carries 6-2. Thank you very much. So we will resume this public hearing, and Ms. Cuddy, we can send communication through the clerk with some of what we'd asked for tonight so that that can come to you and you can communicate back. Thank you very much.
So it's just the engineering report is what you're, that's all I'm to come back with?
I believe it was the engineering report, and if there's any other internal communication or documentation that can be shared as to how this location was chosen, or the needs that justify.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Cuddy. Thank you, counselors. That brings us to our public hearing on order number 43. Ms. Kent, you already read it. So we'll just, we'll just go right to our City Finance Director, Brian Ailes. Mr. Ailes. Thank you for your patience, Mr. Ailes. We'll go right to you to jump in on order 43.
Sure. Thank you, Madam President, and members of the City Council.
You've got two requests before you this evening. The first that we're discussing now has to do with the replenishment of the reserve for unforeseen, which originally was set at $250,000 at the beginning of the FY23 budget. Subsequent to that, the council approved requests to utilize those funds in two different manners. The first was, I believe, to supplement some costs associated with the Briscoe Middle School cleanout, as well as some engineering work for the pickleball court within the Department of Public Services budget. And the second component, Mr. Perry, do you recall off the top of your head what it was? Oh, yeah, for the match for the purchase of the Rowan's site down by the bridge. And so right now that account sits at zero. We had always discussed and explained at the time when we requested those transfers that it would be our intent upon free cash certification to replenish those funds back into this reserve account. We're unable to spend the money from the reserve account if it's approved this evening without a subsequent action by this body to allow us to shift those funds for another purpose.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ailes. Questions? Councillor St. Hilaire.
Yes, Mr. Ailes. So remind me, with 3 months left in the fiscal year, why we're replenishing this line item.
Yeah, great question. So a big part of it is that we know we have obligations ahead of us over the next probably month or so that is going to be before you all related to some contract settlements and some. It's always good as well to have potential reserve in the event of an unforeseen.
So some known unforeseens, I guess.
There are some pieces that we know the shoe hasn't completely fallen on it, but we expect it to happen before the end of the fiscal year.
And why replenish versus just leave it in free cash? I mean, what is the difference in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, the difference really is that it was always our intent to put the money back to allow the flexibility within the existing budget. And secondly, the fiscal policies for the city don't allow for direct appropriations from free cash to recurring type expenditures. And so this would be a way that we're able to get the money into the budget in the event that some of those recurring expenditures did occur, that we could address them before the end of the fiscal year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Other questions or comments on this one for Mr. Ailes? Councillor Houseman.
Oh, it's actually for Mr. Perry.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Perry. If you would.
Good evening, everyone.
Mr. Perry, as I understand it, you have indicated in your memorandum that this is essentially regular order and business as usual in terms of these transfers as proposed?
Yes, I'd like to expound a little bit. I thought Council St. Hilaire asked the right question. To refresh your memory, we did. My records indicate we used $150,000 for the Rowan's property that you're aware of, and we also used $100,000 to clean out the Briscoe. Those type of expenditures are, under our policies, are acceptable as one-time, but we would have used free cash. However, when we needed the money, we had no free cash at that point. So the plan was to borrow, if you will, from unforeseen to pay for that with the indication of putting it back at a later date. The reason we will be putting that back, as the finance director accurately indicated, is that we may be using this for stuff that would not be, it would be an operational cost. So it would be in violation of our policy. We can use this account for operation like a collective bargaining agreement, let's say. But we really shouldn't be, we use free cash for one-time expenditures. So we're kind of borrowing from Peter to pay Paul. Bottom line to it is, that was the intent all along. As I wrote in my letter to you, I would recommend this to the council. It's the right choice, and I am fairly confident we're going to need some of that money for certain expenditures before the end of the fiscal year. Hope that helps. I do recommend its adoption, by the way.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Rotundo, please.
Mr. Ailes, just a quick question in regards to the $250,000 that was already allotted. Did all of that money get used, the 150 and the 100,000 for the Rowans as well as the middle school? I think if I recall, you said there may be a chance that we go under bid. And if that's the case, would that fall back into free cash?
Any unspent funds for those two transfers would fall back to free cash if they go underspent. But I can tell you that the ones that supported the costs within the DPS budget, that's been obligated, even above the amount we transferred in. The Rowans transfer, we still have a small amount of money left from that original grant and transfer. And then there's the additional grant and transfer that I believe may have been, it was approved, I believe, at your last meeting. So that's available as well for the Rowans' work down by the waterfront.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr.
very
Ailes.
much. Thank you, Councilor Rotundo. Other questions or comments from councilors? I do just want to mention, Councilor Bowen is not with us because she's attending a conference in Boston, a leadership conference, and she did just have one question that she hoped that we could ask. The others have been anticipated by other councilors and asked. But Mr. Ailes, if you could just, you began to touch on this, she's wondering if you could just expand a little bit, an update on is the Briscoe clean out completed and some of the money that was allotted also for pickleball. Seems like a positive update is what she's inferring, that it's gotten to a point where that design can go towards CPC funding. Do you have any just updates on either of those?
So first, the Briscoe School, you're all aware as you drive by it, we disposed of it. It's that project is done. It's out of our control, meaning another private party owns the parcel now. As for the pickleball work that's ongoing, I can only tell you the conversations that I've been privy to. I know that there's a lot more discussions going on about the design work and the engineering that we engaged with that money.
Thank you, Mr. Ailes. Any other comments or questions from councilors? Are there any members of the public who want to speak on this public? Councilor St. Hilaire.
Just, road and sidewalk fund, where does that sit? I don't know if that's related or not.
Where does it sit, like, in terms of the accounting structure?
What we budgeted and what we expended, it wasn't too bad of a year from a snow point of view.
So the road and sidewalk fund or the snow and ice account?
Snow and ice removal.
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to run a year-to-date budget report.
Would it be potentially an option to transfer out of that to this sort of an account versus free cash?
Yeah, I mean, yes, there are options other than this, but as Mr. Perry mentioned, it had always been our plan, and we shared back when we were transferring the original funds that had free cash been available back then, and which was during the free cash blackout period, we would have sought free cash for those purposes.
Okay,
so this
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ailes. Thank you, Councilor. Any other questions or comments from councilors on this one? Seeing no members of the public here to speak on this, I will close the public hearing on Order 43, refer it back to the Committee on Finance and Property so that we can take action on that this evening. And we will reopen the recessed public hearing on Order 44 that Ms. Kent read to us a while ago. And this is the request for a transfer for $993,156,000. And a second transfer to transfer $198,631,000 to be transferred as well. So Mr. Ailes, will go to you.
Yeah, this is an annual request that comes before the City Council from the Mayor, consistent with our financial policies, requesting a transfer of 10% of the certified free cash balance to the stabilization fund, as well as a 2% of that free cash balance into the OPEB trust fund.
Thank you, Mr. Ailes. Are there questions or comments from members of the council? I did have one, Councilor Bowen had hoped we could ask, which is, her question is, even though our policies say we should transfer no less than 10% of certified free cash every year, they also say our target is a fund equal to 10 to 15% of operating budget. This year, if we contributed less than the full 10%, like 5 or 8%, we would still be well within that target range for the stabilization fund balance, like 8 to 12%, depending on exact numbers. The question is, was a smaller transfer considered, or is there flexibility around the 10% figure in years with higher than usual free cash following years with higher than usual free cash?
Yeah, so when the policy was developed, it was very intentional to set those ranges. We did a thorough review of potential exposures that the city has. We looked at historical data from past recessions to understand where the vulnerability with the city's finances exists. And based on that and historical activity, we developed the ranges that are in the policy. There is some flexibility written within the policy, and I think, Councilor Houseman, you can speak to this too, because we went back and forth on a lot of this, building these policies together, that we did understand that there would be times when it may not be, we may not be able to, or it may not be in the city's best interest to contribute the full 10% value. But I can assure you, from my seat, the time when it's a healthy economy and revenues are rolling in is the time you do that. It's when the city is more strapped with their free cash and has limited resources, or the economy is eroding, that you begin to revisit that. And that's the flexibility that we designed into the policy. So given where we're at right now, it's definitely my recommendation to put the full value in. And I will just add, because it's important to understand the numbers, even with this transfer, right, within the stabilization fund, we set a range of 10 to 15%. With this transfer, when compared to the FY23 budget, which only has 3 months left, we would be at 12.1%. So not quite in the middle of that range. As soon as we go to next year, which is in 3 months, that percentage, in terms of a budget, is going to drop down to about 11.5%. So very quickly we'll be playing that catch-up game again. So it's best to just transfer it now, continue the policy. Rating agencies appreciate it, understand the responsibility that the council and the administration are doing while they do it.
Thank you, Mr. Ailes. Councilor Houseman.
Yeah, I would just add that, right now the Federal Reserve is facing an inflationary dilemma, and its solution is to raise interest rates and, in effect, slow the economy. And most economists, basically all economists, say that the likelihood of a soft landing is a rare bird. Not to mix my metaphors, but it's very hard to lower the inflationary pressures without putting the economy into a recession. So there's every reason to think that that's where we could be headed in this next fiscal year. And so it seems to me extremely prudent, for the reasons Mr. Ailes just articulated, that this is the time to do it. And as he described, with an increasing budget, the percentage of what we have is going to go down. So I fully support this request.
Thank you very much, Councilor. Councilor St. Hilaire.
I just wanted to say thank you to Brian and also to the mayor for their leadership on this issue. We've been in a pretty strong financial situation as a city under your leadership, and just appreciate your management of this and commitment to it. So thank you.
Well, thanks.
Thank you, Councilor St. Hilaire. Councilor Rotundo.
Mr. Perry, do you have anything to add to this, considering that you work for the council? And, we love Mr. Ailes, but obviously we're value your opinion as much.
I don't love him that much. That's okay. Obviously, I was going to get up and speak. There's a couple of comments. Obviously, I wrote to you, I do support this as your budget analyst. It does conform to our policies. A couple of thoughts, though, I want to expound. I probably have a stronger view on this than even Mr. Ailes has. We have more than doubled the stabilization fund since I've had the opportunity to serve the city council for the last 6+ years. And it has allowed, this to me, and I remember having some dialogue back when I first got here, this is allowing us to have what I consider a major insurance policy here to take care of us. In the 6 years I've been here, we tapped it once, as you know, when we were concerned about COVID, and we were able to replenish it. That was a good thing. We laid off nobody. Where AAA communities were laying off people left and right during COVID, we were able to get through it. But even more importantly, as you know, and we've had some dialogue, and you heard the mayor a little bit tonight, we're getting to possibly ready to embark on some serious financial investments. This building, some property on Cabot Street, the McPherson Center, and this is going to be a very complicated financial thing. The finance director was who, he's really good about that, has invited me to meet with him Wednesday morning. We're going to go over some of this again. And there's some risk here, you know, I mean, nothing's perfect here, but the fact that we're going to have, if you approve this, $18-odd million in stabilization allows us as a community to proceed on these kind of capital investments in a more positive way, in a more confident way, in case something goes south. Councilor Houseman stole my thunder a little bit. I am concerned about a recession later in this fiscal year, and this is another protection against that. So between the investments we're embarking upon, between the recession we could be facing, I think it's extremely wise. If anything, I could argue for more than 10%, but the policies call for 10%. I have a little stronger opinion, I think, than my good friend, the finance director, but this is a good thing to do. I urge you to do it. I'll even add one more thing. I've had several conversations about our overlay account, and it's kind of borderline whether we should be putting a little bit more in there, but the fact we have such a good stabilization fund allows us to maybe, you know, be a little bit, we don't have to put maybe as much into overlay to protect us there because we have the stabilization to protect us. If we put more into overlay, that means we're going to be cutting other services, schools, whatever you want to do. So the bottom line to it, this is a good idea. I strongly support it, and I'm more than happy. Hopefully, Council, that answers your question, but I'm more than happy to answer any other questions you have.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the council? All right. I will close that public hearing and refer that back to the Committee on Finance and Property. We can take action on that this evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Ailes. So, Ms. Kent, let's go to communications from His Honor the Mayor, please.
Order number 70, Dear Honorable City Council, I hereby reappoint, subject to your review and recommendation, Mr. William Finch, 50 Front Street, Beverly, to serve on the Beverly Historic District Commission. His term is to be effective April 1st, 2023 until April 1st, 2026. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs.
Order number 71. Dear Honorable City Council, I respectfully request that you approve a transfer of $188,036 from the Reserve for Union Negotiations 11324/57810 into the Police Department as a result of the recently agreed upon Superior Officer contract. The terms of the contract cover the period of FY 2022 through FY 2024. As such, a portion of the requested transfer will be allocated to pay retroactive salary adjustments, and a portion will be allocated to adjust the FY 2023 budget compensation. I am including a copy of the memorandum of agreement for your review. Sufficient funds are available within the reserve account to support this transfer. Please initiate action on this matter at your City Council meeting on Monday, March 20th. The transfer request will require a public hearing to be set prior to the City Council vote. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property to set that public hearing.
Order number 72. Dear Honorable City Council, enclosed, please find a proposed order amending Beverly Ordinance Section 15-18, Building and Other Facility Planning and Construction Committee. By Order 45 of 2023, you approved my request to appoint Commissioner Mike Collins to serve on the Permanent Buildings and Other Facilities Planning and Construction Committee, Permanent Building Committee. The Law Department has advised that pursuant to Section 15-8 of the City Ordinance, no permanent full-time municipal employee of the city is eligible to be appointed to a multiple member body of the city unless otherwise authorized by ordinance. I am therefore proposing this amendment to address this situation. The proposed amendment to Section 15-18 would allow the Director of Engineering, Commissioner of Public Services, Public Works, which position I believe is uniquely suited to serve on the Permanent Building Committee, to be appointed to this committee. While the request is under consideration by the council, Mr. Collins will not act in any capacity on the Permanent Building Committee. For your reference, the following are examples of city ordinances that allow full-time employees to serve on a multiple member body. Section 15-37, Human Rights Committee. Section 15-24, Retirement Board. Section 15-42, Parking and Traffic Commission. Section 15-20, Cemetery Commission. Section 15-26, David S. Lynch Park Fund. Trustees of Section 15-48, Veterans Advisory Committee. Section 15-27, Design Review Board. Section 15-46, Stormwater Management Advisory Committee. Sincerely yours, Michael P. Cahill, Mayor.
Thank you. Please refer that to the Committee on Legal Affairs. I'd entertain a motion just to take a 5-minute recess, please.
So moved.
So moved.
All those in favor, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll take a 5-minute recess. That carries 8-0. You good? All right. So I will call the city council back to order. Thank you all very much. And we will go to communications from other city officers and boards, please, Ms. Kent.
Order number 73 from Councilor Houseman for City Streets National Grid gas installation, and Order 287.
Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property.
Order number 74, President Flowers, a letter of recommendation for the salary increase of the city clerk.
Please refer that to the Committee on Finance and Property. Let's go to communications, applications, and petitions, please.
Order number 75 from Alexander and Femino, rezoning of property at 8 Summit Ave from RMD to CC.
Thank you. This requires a joint public hearing with the Planning Board, so I would entertain a motion to refer Order 75 to the Planning Board, and then we'll work together to schedule that joint public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That carries 8-0, so we'll refer Order 75 to the Planning Board, and I will work together with their chair. We'll schedule that joint public hearing.
Order number 76 from Keola's Community Services for the 2023 yearly operational plan.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to receive this and place it on file.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That carries 8-0.
Order number 77, notice of availability, immediate response action status report at 34 Longview Drive, Beverly, for former Varian facility site.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to receive that and place it on file.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That carries 8-0 as well.
Order number 78, Department on Public Utilities, notice of filing and request for comments.
I would entertain a motion to receive that and place it on file.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. That carries 8-0. I would entertain a motion to take a brief break for some committee work.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That carries 8-0. We're going to have Finance and Property in the committee room. Public Services, I believe you took care of everything earlier today. So you can attend other meetings. And Legal Affairs will have you stay here in chambers. We did. And things that are more lengthy, we'll schedule meetings to take those up. But anything we can attend to tonight, we'll take care of those in committee. I'll just grab this.
Unless
We can't
Julie
do
said
the
it.
reappointment tonight for
which-
Bill Finch.
No, we can't act on it.
We'll hold on to that one.
So-
Okay.
I'm sorry.
All right, you're okay. Okay, we're ready. Are you ready, Kim? Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll call to order the Legal Affairs Committee, and Committee of the Whole. We'll take up order number 72, and I guess I'd just like to ask Solicitor Williams just on the process of this ordinance amendment request. I know there has to be a certain number of readings before an amendment can be voted on.
Typically, the way the city council handles it is it votes twice, and it needs to be published in the newspaper 10 days before final passage. So typically, this isn't a zoning ordinance, so that's different. You have to schedule a public hearing jointly with the planning board. typically, the city council just doesn't do anything with it tonight. And then the next time legal affairs meets, it would act on the order and make a recommendation to the city council. And then the council, full council votes that night usually, and then votes again.
Okay, so
But
we,
the city clerk needs to publish notice of this amendment, and she knows that.
before we vote on, 10 days
But
before
10 days
we
before
take
final
the
passage.
vote. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so there's no public hearing on
No
this?
public
It's
hearing.
just a discussion of legal affairs. Okay. And we can't vote on this tonight even? I mean, we could, but it wouldn't go anywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't really advance the ball.
Okay. All right, so I think, any questions from committee members? I think we just hold it for discussion for our next meeting. We had, we're hoping to schedule a legal affairs committee meeting to discuss, order number 282, accessory dwelling units, but we don't have the date for that meeting yet. We have a conflict on the
Yeah, I just realized.
on the beginning of the month, so we'll, put that date out as soon as we know what it is. And I believe that's all we have. Solicitor Williams?
Zoning amendment, the
I got
proposed zoning.
pushed to planning to set a public, joint
Yeah,
public
okay,
hearing.
so
Yeah.
that was already done.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize,
That's
I didn't know
okay.
if it got referred.
Yeah, yep. Okay, so actually, I think we're done. I would accept a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole.
So moved.
Those in favor? Aye. And a motion to adjourn legal affairs.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
anything, I don't think.
72 is
Still in,
still in
Legal?
committee? Is 72 still in legal?
yeah.
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 For 74, I'm going to switch with Todd so he can go through.
All right, I'll do that I'll do that finance property last.
Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You ready, Kim? All right. I'll call the city council back to order, and we will go to reports from committees, please, Ms. Kent.
Order number 55, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom referred the matter regarding an appointment for Mr. Corey Farinella, 30 Bow Street, to serve on the Zoning Board of Appeals, have considered said matter and recommend the council approve this appointment.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That carries 8-0.
Order number 59, to the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom referred the matter regarding reappointments for Mr. George Binns and Mr. Mike Collins to serve on the Parking and Traffic Commission, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve these reappointments.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 8-0.
Order number 61, the Committee on Legal Affairs, to whom refer the matter regarding an appointment for Dana Morton to serve on the Beverly Chamber of Commerce Representative on Parking and Traffic Commission, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this appointment.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That carries 8-0.
Order number 54, the Committee on Public Services, to whom referred the matter regarding an appointment for Mr. William K. Kendrick, 2 Webster Avenue, to serve on the Beverly Airport Commission, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this appointment.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That carries 8-0.
Order number 56, from the Committee on Public Services, to whom refer the matter, an appointment for Mr. Kyle Ritalak, 346 Elliott Street, to serve on the Beverly Airport Commission, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this appointment.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That carries 8-0.
Order number 57, the Committee on Public Services, to whom referred the matter regarding an appointment for Miss Nancy Schultz. Yep, 13 Bertram Street, to serve on the 12 Bertram Street, sorry, there was a correction, to serve on the Clean Energy Board, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this appointment.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That carries 8-0.
Order number 60, the Committee on Public Services, to whom refer the matter regarding a reappointment for Mr. Ronald Janest and Miss Jan Pierce, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this reappointment.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All those, carries 8-0.
Order number 62, the Committee on Public Services, to whom refer the matter regarding an appointment for Ms. Alyssa Raymond Reed, 163 Lothrop Street, to serve on the Human Rights Commission, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve the appointment.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That carries 8-0.
Order number 43, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom refer the matter regarding a transfer request for $250,000 from the city's certified free cash balance to be placed into the city's reserve for unforeseen within the FY23 operating budget. Have considered said matter. Recommend the council approve this request.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries 8-0.
Order number 44, the Committee on Finance and Property, whom refer the matter regarding a transfer request for $993,156 from the city's certified free cash balance to be placed into the city's stabilization fund, and a second transfer request to transfer $198,631 from the free cash balance to be placed into the OPEB trust. Have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this request.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That carries 8-0.
Order number 71, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom referred the matter regarding a transfer of $188,036 from the reserve for union negotiations 11324/57810 into the Police Department, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Set a public hearing for April 3rd at 7:45 PM.
Questions or comments? Question comes on the acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the recommendation to set that public hearing for our April 3rd meeting at 7:45 PM. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That carries 8-0. So that public hearing will be at our next regular meeting, April 3rd, 7:45 PM.
Order number 73, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom refer the matter regarding city streets, National Grid gas installation and orders. Oh, they held this.
Yeah, it's same committee, sorry.
Okay, sorry. And order number 74, the Committee on Finance and Property. Do you want to?
Yes, I'm going to ask Vice President Rotundo to switch places with me for this one, and I'll have him stay here to call for this vote. Thank you very much, Vice President.
Order number 74, the Committee on Finance and Property, to whom refer the matter regarding letter of recommendation for the salary increase of the city clerk, have considered said matter and beg leave to follow. Recommend the council approve this request.
Any questions or comments? Question comes on acceptance of the proposal and adoption of the order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 8-0. That be it?
That's it. That's all I got.
Is there any, can I switch with you now?
Why don't you finish this up, Vice
Is
President?
there any announcements that anyone has? Councilor Sweeney?
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I just want to make everyone aware, the Kiwanis Club of Beverly is holding the Green Eggs and Ham Breakfast this Saturday at 8 a.m. at the Cove Community Center. I think it runs from 8 to 11. I will be there serving green eggs. The event is to support youth literacy in Beverly, so whether you want to bring your kids or just show up and get a breakfast, it should be a good event, and I would encourage you all to stop by.
Anyone else?
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure I announced that the next National Grid Citizens Advisory Committee, which is, the Citizens Advisory Committee helps to kind of mitigate the problems or give compliments for the project that we're currently seeing in our city, the N192 replacement project. So we meet on April 6th at 5 p.m. at the Public Library, main branch, downtown in the Barnett Gallery. Thanks.
Madam President.
Thank you. I just wanted to make an observation when we came out of committee and all those reports, so many of those were appointments or reappointments of residents in our community willing to serve on our boards and commission. And so I just wanted to say a collective thank you to all of those people. It struck me as Ms. Kent was reading those reports, how many names that was. And just thanks to everybody who was willing to serve in those capacities. And I also wanted to mention that tomorrow is Kim from BevCam's birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday.
Anyone else?
Well, I have a question for Council President, whether we're going to sing happy birthday to Kim. If not, just for those on BevCam who may be watching us live, just want to highlight a virtual or online resiliency in the Bass River area, I guess, tour webinar that's being given by the Sustainability Office tomorrow, so you can log in and find out what the Sustainability Office is up to in terms of the study that they've done around resiliency for the Bass River area, and which directly affects its future and the building or the development that may occur there.
Council, I just want to correct, 'cause I did say, thought the same thing. I know what, it's an actual virtual meeting, so it's actually a Zoom meeting where people can participate in it. So
Yes.
it's not a webinar, which is what I was telling people, which I was stood corrected.
Yeah, it's a virtual meeting.
So it's a virtual meeting, so thank you. Anyone else? Is there a motion to recess?
Adjourn.
Adjourn, I'm sorry.
We don't want to come back.
Yes, I'm sorry. Motion to adjourn. Yes.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
8-0. Motion carries. Thank you.
We do want